Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me. Um, Let me know who's first past the post this morning. Let me know if you can actually hear me, you guys, and that everything is working. I know we did a check night before last, but it's still check, and I still got to make it work. So we've definitely got our guest backstage. I can see you, Paula, backstage. That is a start. Good morning. Who is first past the post this morning? Govinda Sandy. Good morning. First past the post this morning is Govinda. Please let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Please let me know. Let me know that we're safe, that we're home and dry, that this is our hope for the week. We are in Bardolino, Italy, for Claire Sweets. VIP speaker intensive. You can hear me, you can see me. We are here. Oh my God, I made it. I'm absolutely thrilled. So, Katie Page, good morning. Good morning. If you're watching in the Hive, you'll need to give StreamYard permission for us to see your name. Otherwise, you look like this. You look like a Facebook user, and you're not. You're not block me like we're friends. So, yes, you can see and hear me. Fantastic. Well, a very good morning to you. It is 9 o'clock where we are, 8 o'clock where you guys are. We're working with a little bit of a time zone difference. High flyer that I am these days. I hope you are all well. For those of you that are wondering what it is that I am doing out here. So, there are loads and loads of different ways to work with me. So, as you know, there's the Be Heard, so you want to be a speaker course. There's the Be Inspired Mastermind, where you can come and speak at the Be Inspired event and work with me for 6 months. And then for the people that don't have time to do sort of long stretches of courses, we can hold ourselves up for a few days and get all of your stories mapped out, get all of your talks created, so that then you can go out and start pitching your talks. So this is really, really helpful for people who have got really busy lives, who've got businesses that really need quite quickly the ability to speak really, really well. So made up. I'm made up. It is beautiful. It is scorchio outside. I'm all in my summer finery. Let me know what the weather is doing where you are. It's Scotch. It's Scotch in the UK, is it not? If I had my map here, I'd be like, it's Scotch all over the place, right? How are you doing? It's red as in the UK. It was red as when I got on the plane. So it's just my bloody luck that we booked somewhere beautiful because we wanted to catch the weather. And actually, it's sunny where we are in the UK. In fairness, the flights here at the time that we booked them in June, July. It was actually cheaper than getting a train to each other and getting an Airbnb. Can you believe it? But we are staying. It's beautiful. The apartment that we've got. I don't know if I can show you. I can't kind of turn you around. So this is our workspace. You have to forgive it's a bit of a mess now. So we're all set up for the day. I got Claire some surprises, some treats there. We've got all of our stationery all sorted. It's a beautiful space, really nice and light and airy space for us to work. We've got a lovely terrace outside if we want to kind of go and take the work outside, because it is an intensive. So what's going to be involved is a lot of going back through Claire's story, going back through things that have happened to and for her, and then making them fit into her purpose, into the purpose for these talks. So it is it's called an intensive for a reason, but I'm really, really excited. It is one of my favorite things to do. It's one of my favorite ways to go about it, because doing it in this environment means that you get the stuff done. So yeah, I'm made up today. I am a happy pea. I mean, I'm a happy pea most days, but today I'm a particularly happy pea. And also I woke up having had a full night's sleep. I was absolutely shattered when I got in last night. We went out for a lovely meal, had some like mussels, and we had pasta. Of course, we had pasta. We're in Italy. And the thing is, even because we're in Italy, even the house wine is really nice. So, like, we had a lovely glass of wine, had a limoncello. Although we were discussing this situation, you guys, how do we all feel about limoncello? Because I mean, Claire doesn't like it because it's like Jif. Which makes sense. I think I was drinking it because I was like when in Rome, well, when Bardolino, but you know what I mean. Where are we? I look, we are sounding. I love that we are sounding like weather people now at the beginning of the show. Annie Cameron, good morning. It's lovely there, all sunny and fresh there in Cheshire. Govinda, glorious sunshine in London. Highs of 31 expected. I love them being very specific with the weather. I love it. Good morning, Nicola Rowley. Good morning, everybody. So, excuse me. So, welcome to the show. I am super excited to bring our guest onto the show this morning, because we are going to be talking all things bees. So from one queen bee to another, and I'm really sorry, Paula, I didn't get a chance to speak to you before the show, so we're just going to introduce ourselves to each other and have a conversation like this in front of everybody, which is kind of what I do anyway, living my life out on Facebook and all of that sort of stuff. If you are watching along, please make sure you are saying hello, you're saying good morning when you drop in. If you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay. If you've got any questions for us as we go, ask away in the comments. If you are watching on my personal profile, I will not be able to see those questions until the end. For some reason, StreamYard doesn't pull it through to the comments that I can see. All right, without further ado, talking all things bees, the very glorious, the very beautiful Paula Carnell, good morning.
Good morning. What an introduction. Fabulous.
Welcome to Italy.
Oh, I know. I miss it. It's where I go to study honey sensory analysis. So I have very fond memories of going to Italy and, beautiful place.
Paula, when you said you wanted to be on the show, I got so excited because bees and bee behavior form a lot of the basis of some of the things that I talk about when I speak. So being a motivational speaker, as well as a speaker coach, I often draw on analogies from bees and bee behavior to talk about how we can better do things. We have a lot to learn from bees, right?
Oh, absolutely. I learn something every day from bees. Yeah, we learn from the bees. They're here to teach us.
I love it. So Paula, tell us more about what it is that you do.
Okay, so I am a international bee consultant. So what I do is I advise people.
Sorry, I am beyond excited right now.
I know. I created my own career.
Good.
So I started off keeping bees, but now what I do is I look after other people's bees. So quite a lot of people want to have bees, but don't have the time, or they're terrified of actually looking after them. So I have clients with just one colony. And then I also work with companies. So one of the companies I work with is a visitor attraction in Somerset called the Newt in Somerset. Right. And I've been there for 3 years. It's only been open to the public for the last year. And I set up everything bees there. So when I first went, there was one wild colony in a tree and one in a hive. And we've now got 16 colonies. But what I do is different to a lot of beekeeping. So I'm a naturopathic beekeeper. So through my own journey, which no doubt you'll find out about during this morning, I had quite a major health recovery, and I started studying herbal medicine because that's what helped get me better. So I learned a lot about naturopathy, and it was through that journey that I started questioning a lot of the conventional behavior or the habits of beekeepers, and I started to compare it. And so now my business is all about creating a buzz about health, because like you said, the bees are here to teach us, and we can learn so much. And there's so much research about what's killing the bees. And I believe that what's killing the bees is also killing us. So we really need to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. There was Zac Efron on Netflix very recently. For anybody watching out there, it's definitely worth watching. I mean, just for Zac Efron, but there's a whole episode that he did on bees and pollution, and going on the top of buildings and the tops of buildings becoming more green areas and becoming more places to keep bees, and more businesses. Is this right? More and more businesses are becoming more interested in having hives, etc., on the top of these high-rise buildings, and having like gardens, green areas, flowers, and what have you, as a counteraction, as a way that they're trying to prevent, I guess, or try and help become kind of more sustainable. It is really starting to infiltrate more conversations, like right now, like I can see it happening.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what's really interesting is that bees in cities are actually doing better than bees in the countryside. Wow. And you'd imagine that bees in the countryside would be, thriving. But the problem is with our modern agriculture, with lots of monocultures, it's literally a green desert. There's not enough food for the bees.
Right.
But also, there's so many chemicals that are used in conventional farming. And that goes straight into the ground. It goes into the nectar. and the pollen that the bees are fetching and using to feed all their larvae. And it's affecting them. It's really seriously affecting them in so many ways. And if those chemicals are used on the food, the crops that we're eating, what's it doing to us?
Right. So in what ways are these chemicals? I mean, it sounds obvious, but I mean, for the purpose of the conversation, how are these chemicals affecting the bees? Like, what's happening to them?
Okay. Well, it was first noticed in the 90s when they changed the type of chemicals that were used, and these systemic pesticides were introduced. Now, systemic pesticide is where the seed is treated so that the whole plant becomes toxic to insects.
My God.
So this was noticed actually in Italy, where you'll have to go into the markets and try and get some amazing honey while you're there. But sunflower honey is an incredible, incredible honey, really great to taste. And so beekeepers would help the farmer by taking their bees into the big fields of sunflowers, those beautiful fields that we see in South France, Italy. They take their bees in there to pollinate the sunflowers, so the farmers would have all the seeds that they could then use. But also the beekeepers would get a lot of honey from it. And this honey is a premium honey. But this one particular year, millions and millions of hives. I mean, there's 50,000 bees in a hive. Millions
in one hive,
were just killed. And so the beekeepers were like, what's happened? What's changed? Suddenly our bees are dying. And it was the systemic insecticide, which is called a neonicotinoid. So you may have heard of the neonics, and it's one of those things that keep back bans, moratoriums of neonics. And the sunflower seeds were treated with this neonic. So that means that the whole plant, as it grows up, if the bees sit on the leaves and drink any rainwater that's landed on the leaves, it's toxic rainwater. If they take the nectar, if they take the pollen, anything. Now, because that was the first introduction of those chemicals, the bees, it was like a toxic shock. They'd never had this kind of experience before. And so they died.
Yeah, they're introducing a chemical to their environment that is, I mean, they're on the little tiny, so that is a lot of chemistry to be happening in a little bee.
Oh, it is, in one go, in one go. Now, the other thing about neonics is they use a nicotine gene in these chemicals, which makes it addictive. So the bees keep coming back.
Oh my God, it's
more. I know.
It's like worst kind of, pardon the pun, but it's the worst kind of honey trap.
It is. It is.
The worst kind of, my God, they keep going back for more. Oh my, right, okay, carry on. Okay. Tell me,
that was the first thing. Well, then, so obviously the beekeepers were worried about this and started trying to find out about it. But it took over 20 years for scientists to prove that the neonics were dangerous to bees. And the problem is that there's so many other things that are happening with bees that are killing them. And obviously there's lots of people looking in different directions. So that was like the first instant. And in America, there was a commercial beekeeper, who lost all his bees overnight. He'd go to the hive and there were just no bees there. So they were leaving the hive to pollinate and then not coming back to the hive. So then there was an indication that it was affecting their navigation skills. There was something happening.
They couldn't find their way lost.
Yeah, we see they follow geopathic stress lines, like whales and salmon and birds, they follow these lines. So it's not just the chemicals, it's also the EMF radiation, which disrupts them. So you've got that and that. Then you have the disease called varroa, which is a little mite that lives inside the hive. And so that can affect them. And that's been a big problem for beekeepers, and that really changed beekeeping from being a more relaxed, easy trade into something that you've really got to work at. Now, it all gets very complicated.
Yeah, you've got to know some things, haven't you?
Oh gosh, yeah. So you do need to know about disease, you need to understand it. Now, what's happened, which I only really understood last year when I went to Canada to Apimondia, which is a big global bee conference, and there's a film called The Pollinators that was shown. And obviously there was the whole conference, 5 days, was all about the effects of chemicals on bees. So there were 3 lecture halls all running at the same time, and it was just non-stop lectures from scientists and professors about bee health. But what I didn't understand was that particularly in North America, bees are shipped all across the country to pollinate the almond crops. And I always used to think, well, why don't the almond farmers have their own honeybees?
They have their own bees.
Yeah, it would make sense. But the problem is and we can't comprehend it from Britain because it's on such a large scale, but these almond crops are so vast that it's a true monoculture. You have hundreds of thousands of hectares of just one crop that flowers for 3 weeks. There's no hedges, there's no grass. It's all drenched with fungicides and insecticides. So this is the key. We have 22,000 species of bees around the world, and there's only 11 of them that produce honey. The rest are solitary and bumblebees. Now, it's the solitary and bumblebees that do a lot of the pollination. So with particularly with apples or almonds, one, say, a red mason bee, which is a solitary bee, that would do the work of 250 honeybees. So they're really, really effective. But because we don't take honey from them, nobody cares.
Nobody's bothered, but actually they're more effective.
Yeah. So don't notice
they want the byproduct. So they want they want the byproduct of having the bee have the dual purpose, even though actually it's a false economy almost.
Well, it is. It's a complete false economy. But the reason they've lost all these solitary bees is because they nest in the ground and in the hedgerows. So first of all, there's not the environment, but then there isn't the food for them for the rest of the year. And because the chemicals are seeping into the soil, it's just killing them. It's wiping them out. So now you have vast areas where they have to have the honeybees because they've got no other bees.
None of us will survive. It's crazy.
No.
Absolutely crazy. So, excuse me. Esther just asking about EMF radiation.
Yeah.
What is EMF radiation?
Okay. EMF radiation is electromagnetic frequency. So the Earth has a frequency of 7.68 hertz, and it's always vibrating. And humans vibrate. We have a frequency that's between 60 and 75, 80 hertz. Now, NASA, when they first started sending men, because that's who they sent up first.
They sent dudes first.
I know. I love this story that when JF Kennedy said, right, we want to send we want to find the ideal astronauts and we want to send them into space, and they've got to be able to multitask, they've got to be light, they've got to be flexible. And the scientist came back and said, actually, you've described a woman. He's like, well, we can't send a woman up.
We can't possibly.
So anyway, when they first started sending men into space, they found that they were getting sick, and they couldn't figure out, well, they did figure out why. In the end, they realized it was because in rockets, you no longer had the background frequency of the Earth.
Which and is of course, everything, when people say that we are vibrating in tune with everything around us, we actually are. We are. That is science. That's not woo.
No, it's not woo. I mean, when I first read about this, and my husband was like, you can't tell people about this, and this is crazy, everyone's going to think you're mad, and I've got my, mad hair. But it's all proven in science.
Yeah.
And so now in space rockets, and space stations, they have a background frequency of 7.68, so that humans can stay up there indefinitely. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my God. Now,
this is where it gets interesting, because I know, I love it.
I'm just getting my science fill this morning. Honestly, I'm such a geek on the quiet, and I love it. Carry on.
Well, I'll tell you why I had to find out these things, because when I first started keeping bees, the first question for me was, why are we feeding bees sugar when we've taken the honey? And I just thought sugar's poison. To get my health, I had to stop sugar. So I was like, why are we doing that? And when I first went to a bee group, and they're all talking about buying fondant, buying sugar and giving it to your bees. And I'm like, but it's poison. Why are you giving sugar to bees? They should be eating honey. And this lovely old man with a big bushy beard, he said, what nonsense from a little girl. Bear in mind, I was like 48, but I was a little girl. And he said, everyone knows that sugar is exactly the same as honey. And I knew it wasn't, but I didn't know why it wasn't. I didn't know how. So I had to then go off and just research everything so I could come back and back up what I know is right.
Actually, look.
Yeah, exactly. So getting back to EMF radiation and why my husband thought I was mad and I should never talk to anyone about this. But the more people I talked about it and the more I understand about it, it makes perfect sense. So we are 60 to 70 odd or 80. The Earth is 7.68. Now, bees, their frequency is 230 to 280 hertz, which is in the middle of the spectrum. And I know that in some of the groups that we share, there are some people who are well into the woo-woo and know about frequency.
A little bit of woo.
Oh, I know. We all need a bit of woo. We got to embrace the woo.
Embrace the woo.
And be the woo even. So emotions have all different frequencies. So anger and fear are all really low in the spectrum, about 68, 60, 50, even up to 80. And, a Buddhist monk who's almost about to sort of transform into
transcend.
Transcend, that's the word. They would be about 500, 600 hertz. Okay. 250 hertz is in the middle of the spectrum, and that is neutrality. That is calm and presence. Now, bees, their frequency is 230 to 280. So they are calm and present. Now, what creates that frequency on the planet is below the ground, you have waters flowing. So you've probably all heard of dowsers and I mean, even big water companies, big construction companies, they use water dowsers to find out where the water is. The reason is because the water flows through, creates a different frequency, which then produces a curtain that goes right up to the sky, goes through the earth. And that curtain frequency is between 230 and 260 hertz. Oh
my God.
I know.
So obviously then, right. And then when you're saying mobile phones and what have you really interact and interfere with this. So no wonder if there's these sheets of essentially kind of the Earth's radiation and all of this, the frequencies being emitted, if they're being interrupted, then are you saying, I'm just putting two and two together, I might be getting sick, but are you saying, but because of the interruption from things like mobile phones, from things like things around us, that actually that is being interrupted and therefore the bees are having an issue with their navigation?
No, the difference is that even with our basic electricity, so even with pylons and, the transmitters that we have, it produces a chaotic frequency. It's not regular, and we have alternating currents, so it's pulsing. Got to go the right way around. This is all reversed, isn't it? So I keep doing that to move my fringe.
I'm the same. It takes a while to get used to. I tried doing makeup like this and it started doing it like not in the mirror.
No. So we have these pulses which are very difficult for birds and bees to navigate. So this is what the problem is. But the great thing about these geopathic stress curtains of 250 hertz is that's where the bees, it's their wavelength, it's their frequency. So you know how we say, they're on the same wavelength as me.
On the wavelength.
We're all electrical beings. Our heart produces an electrical circuit that goes out. But it's a natural one. And if we've got our feet on the ground, then we're earthed and it's all in nature. So the moment we start playing around with stuff, we are messing it all up.
We wonder why we become disconnected from ourselves. We wonder why we have anxiety. We wonder why we feel chaotic on the inside. If you think about ourselves as an energy, if we are a flowing current of energy, no wonder people feel immediately better when they go outside. One of my friends, Nikki Sprosen, she's amazing. She works in sound healing, and I was speaking to her once and I was feeling really anxious. I had something coming up. I have loads of things coming up. It's crazy. Like I kind of careen from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. So I'm so excited about life. And sometimes she has to say, Dani, stop. Go out, take your shoes off, go put your feet on the floor, please. Like, just please stop talking. Go out and put your feet on the grass. And it's so funny, but now I do, like, I'd much rather walk around barefoot anyway. I feel much more connected when I walk around barefoot, but going out, put my feet on the ground, on the grass, on the soil, feels so much better now than now. I understand how it all works. It's so funny.
Oh, it is. And it's so important. So, I mean, I have an earthing mat on my bed, which you plug in to the wall socket, but you don't turn it on. It's just, it has the pin that does the earthing ring, so that when you're on your bed, you've got that connection with the earth. So it really helps you sleep. But also, if you think about jet lag, what jet lag is because we've become disconnected from the earth. And I don't know yet if they have that background frequency on planes. It's probably quite expensive to reproduce, so possibly not, which is why we get disconnected and we have the jet lag. But I did read I've read quite a lot of scientific papers, but there was one which was saying, if you put a mobile phone inside a beehive, and you make calls, within 2 days, the whole hive is dead. It's really funny. I know. Oh. It's horrific. So yeah, I'm not sure which of us froze, but
I'm back now.
So it is really concerning, because it does wipe them out. So when I'm working with bees, my bee team, I have a bee team, and we turn our phones off. And I'm trying to make that step, which is very difficult at the moment, actually. I've got an EMF free telephone, which is like really basic, it looks like one of those the things you get from a bank to log into your account now. You get these
little card reader.
Yeah, it looks like a card reader, and it's a telephone. And I've just got to make that step, because then that is just a telephone. But I've got an iPhone, I run my business from it. If I'm away and I'm selling stuff, I take credit cards, and then you need it all. It's really difficult, and we've become so dependent
on it.
We have. Crazy. It is a worry.
So what does you do the setup of bees in different hives and what have you in different places? How does that work in your naturopathy work? So do you do work with humans over their health using what you learned from bees, or is it just that you specify in? Tell us a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I'm still studying. I'm 5 years into a 7-year course, so I can't treat humans. I do speak. So, like you, I do quite a lot of talks. And so what I've found amazing is when I first got well and I had to start earning a living again, I had sort of 3, the beekeeping was my hobby. There's some minerals that I took that really changed my life. So I started selling the minerals, or I was like an agent for the minerals, a distributor. And then I was studying the herbal medicine, and I would make herbal teas, and I had a little pop-up market stall in our town, and I was sort of getting back into working. And more people were asking me about my way of looking after my bees. And I was quite strict about my honey, so I wouldn't sell it to people who live too far away, because I say, no, you have to treat it as medicine. So that sort of changed. But the last 2 years,
you do have a real effect.
Sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, I was just going to say you do have to treat it like a medicine, because it has very real impacts on the body. There's a reason why our ancestors used plants and the things that are around us as ways to treat ourselves. That's where all pharma is actually based in that. It's just that humans cock things up and they apply monetary value to it, because we're in a capitalist society for fear of getting into too much of the politics of it all. But it's like cocaine, for example. Not that I advocate the use of cocaine, bear with me on this one, but where it grows naturally and where the indigenous people to that area are, they use it for focus. They're not like snorting lines of coke. They chew the leaves and they use it for focus, the same as we would have in a cup of coffee. And what we did, for the Western society's point of view, found out if we concentrate it and concentrate it and concentrate it and concentrate it and process it and process it and process it and process it, actually it has this really kind of super potent, the more narcotic outcomes. And we gone in there and went and fucked something up, like we do. And we do it with everything. We did it with nicotine. It was the same with nicotine, and then they ended up making it into a smokable delivery of that drug, and ended up having all of the issues that come with it. It's crazy.
It is. It embodies our complete disconnect from nature. So nature, I mean, during my herbal medicine studies, there's been quite a few people who've graduated and they have to do a dissertation and then they do a lecture about their dissertation. And what I've noticed as a common thread, both through tutors and through people who've gone through the course, is that we have the herbs, they grow around us, the ones we need to heal us. But we don't look, we don't see. So, for instance, dandelions are absolutely amazing. And the dandelion root has been proven, scientifically proven, to have an amazing effect on tumours. It reduces the growth of tumours. I mean, fabulous. And it's a weed, it grows everywhere. You know, absolutely amazing. But we don't know that. And, you know, if you eat the leaves, you're getting your calcium and potassium. And this is a great story. So bees know how to self-medicate. So this is how it all ties in. So the Welsh Botanic Gardens in Wales, they have 8,000 species of plants, and they've got bees, and they were really interested to know which plants the bees went to make the honey. So they tested the honey, and they found that despite the choice of 8,000 amazing plants, the bees picked 11 plants, and they were all native weeds. The bees were ignoring the main gardens and going around the hedgerows for the willow, the hazel, the dandelions, the brambles.
Yeah.
Now, what
all
I
of the
love
things that come up if you let stuff overgrow.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
If you leave it be. Now, this is the magic. I love the magic. And this is the magic about herbalism and the magic of life. You know, life is a spark. It's this amazing, there's so much wonder, and that's what we have to be looking more at, is the wonder. So when a dandelion grows, it has these long tap roots which go down into the soil, and they release the calcium and potassium which come up into the flower and into the leaves. So if you leave the dandelions in your lawn and then they just die down, all that calcium and potassium, which is now in a plant-based absorbable form, both for humans and for the soil, it then goes into the soil and corrects the soil. And so this happens. And then when the seed head, the dandelion clock, when the wind takes those seeds and blows them, those seeds will only take in soil that needs calcium and potassium. So I've lived here for 16 years, and this where I am now is my shed, but it was my studio when I used to be an artist. And there's a field that I can see there, large 11-acre field. And when I first came 16 years ago, it was full of dandelions. Now, all that field ever has done is it's cut for hay. So it's all silage, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's all cut like 2 or 3 times a year. So nothing else is done to it. And this year, there were hardly any dandelions, but on our orchard, we've got a little mini orchard. It sounds a bit grand, but it's only got 7 trees in, but it's a little patch.
in the orchard, darling.
Oh, yes, our orchard. No, it's just a little patch at the end. And we're now having more dandelions there. And there's this amazing beekeeper called, she's a biodynamic farmer and beekeeper in America called Jacqueline Freeman. Yeah. And she wrote this book called The Song of Increase, which is an amazing book, but it is a woo book. It's a real woo book. And yet the woo she first talked about is now being proven by science. But she was the one who introduced me to this idea of the bees with their buzz is a song that maps the minerals in the soil around. And so bees know, I know. So the bees know when you see dandelions that's calcium and potassium. So when you go back to the Welsh Botanic Gardens and you think about all the brambles and you think of the willow, these are all self-seeded plants. That's what weeds are. They just decide to go somewhere. They've gone there for a reason. So they are mineral rich. So we need to get out there and eat our blackberries. We need to eat the wild cherries. We need to, pick the dandelions as long as they haven't been sprayed. And that's where our nutrition comes from. That's what we need, is the plant-based minerals.
Oh. So, for example, everyone's the same. Like, you're all watching out there going, oh my God, right. So I wrote about this in my book, actually. My daughter Ivy, my youngest daughter, sees that we always talk about that wonder and that magic. And it's funny how kids really do. They just, in everything that they see, everything is quite magical. And I was having a bit of a tough morning one morning. Like, two older kids like fighting, and I was like, "We've got to get out of the door. I don't want us to be late." And I got out the door, got the older kids in the car, and I turned around to go in the car, and the whole of the lawn was just awash with the white heads of the dandelions. It was like overnight. It was overnight. Joanne's Smith's actually just saying right now, this reminds me of Weeds and Wishes. Yeah, it's making Weeds and Wishes. So I was furious. I was like, Wallace, why have you not done the, like, I'm busy enough, I can't mow the lawn as well. And Ivy came out, she went, "Mummy, look." And I was like, "What?" "Whoa, Mummy's got a really thin nerve right now. Don't get her. Look at all the wishes in the garden. Look at all the wishes. There's so many wishes. Aren't I a lucky girl that I've got all these wishes in the garden?" And it really got me thinking, like, it's that. I mean, especially when we think about things like dandelions. You get to choose whether they're weeds or they're wishes. And if it's something we can use, then why not? So my garden is definitely not treated. It's probably one of the least treated areas in the history of gardens.
Brilliant.
So are those dandelions okay to eat?
Yes. Yeah.
Really? So I could just go and pick a salad out of my garden. I've not even tried.
Yeah, they have a bitter flavour. So dandelion leaves are bitter. Now, one of the problems we've got in Western Europe is or Western culture, we've lost our taste for bitters. And when you eat food, it stimulates secretions in your mouth and in your gut. And the different flavours, so the sour, the sweet, the salty, and the bitters, they create different types of chemical reactions. Now, if we get used to only having sweet and salty, we're missing out on the chemical reactions in our stomach, and it affects our digestive system, makes us sick. So we need to have that balance. But we've got used to thinking, oh, it's bitter, but we need that bitter. We need a variety, just like the bees need a variety. So if you pick the fresh dandelion leaves, springtime, well, obviously it's a bit hard to find this time of year, but the fresh new leaves, that's the lovely one. Don't get them on a roadside because they're going to be covered in exhaust,
and dogweed.
Yeah, my mum, I've been thinking about this so much recently. I've been out picking blackberries, and my mum always used to say, "Don't pick the blackberries low down because the deer will have weed on them."
Pick the ones that are high up, and you're safe. Right, noted.
Yeah. So remember that. Good wisdom, Sibley wisdom, my mum's wisdom. So so you can pick the leaves. Now the flowers, this is what I love as well, because sunflowers, dandelions, calendula, they look like the sun. They're sunshiny. So if you pick those flowers, you can dry them, which is really quite easy. Just lay them flat in a cardboard box in an airy place, and you can put them in teas. So through the winter months, you have those little bits of the vitamins and minerals in them release the sunshiny vibe. So you actually feel they help you get through the winter. So calendula is particularly good, which looks like big, sunshine. So, and you can dry the leaves and actually have them as teas. So I make a lot of herbal teas because that's a really good way of having herbs, but in a very gentle way. And then the root, if you start going into the roots, then you're going into herbalism. So you need to have a bit of advice, because if you're going to
know about that.
Yeah, but there's lots of books about Alice Fowler, the gardener with wonderful red auburn hair, and she has a weed garden and grows and cooks and stuff. She's done some really good books with some basic home recipes for tinctures and decoctions. So now what I've done is I've transferred. I realized that the way I was treating bees was in a naturopathic way, which is working in alignment with nature. So by allowing them to keep their honey, not feeding them sugar, and with disease treatment, the whole thing about naturopathy is working with nature and its prevention. So if you build up a strong immune system and you have a good, healthy environment, which is not just have you got pollution coming out of big chimneys, the environment is also the mental and spiritual environment. So it's no stress. Now, if you're
especially if we're vibrating and all of that, if we're vibrating kind of situation and all of that's being affected and we're feeling chaotic and we're not grounded, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's and so there's this big difference with Western allopathic medicine, which is very much about germ theory. Naturopathy is based on terrain, and it's based on the environment and the belief that everything comes from within. So the healing comes from within, and you know, the illness comes from within. We've all got potential for every illness, but it's only when you get out of balance that those viruses or that condition can actually, you know, take hold. So yeah, so I'm running an online course thanks to Lisa Johnson. I did her P4P course, and I'm in the middle. I've got week 3 now of my naturopathic beekeeping course, and I've got a lovely group, and we're just talking naturopathy and bees. But this week is all about disease. So it's all about how you spot disease and how you can treat it, but in a naturopathic way. And I was thinking about that because I did this on purpose, so I'd remember to talk about it on my course on Thursday. I've got here some coriander honey.
Oh,
now this comes from a company in Birmingham in the Midlands called Amelson's, and if you go on their website, which is natureshop.co.uk, I think, or if you just Google Amelson's honey, and if you put Paula in the shopping cart, you get a discount. You get 5% off.
I love it. Cheeky IATQB discount, y'all.
Yes, yeah. Just put Paula. And this coriander honey. So coriander, you know, is a herb, and it has these lovely little white flowers, and the bees love it. And in Bulgaria and certain, I think this does come from Bulgaria, you get countries that don't use pesticides. You get these pure herbs. Now, coriander honey tastes like, you know, coriander seeds. If you crush them, it has a real a perfume, you know, quite a strong perfume,
fragrance.
So when you taste a honey, oh gosh, you roll it across the roof of your mouth. Now this one has got grains, so it started to crystallize. And what a lot of people don't realize is that honey naturally crystallizes because it's the sugar content in it. So honey has fructose, sucrose, glucose, but the real important thing, this is what makes honey magic, is it has enzymes in which come from the bees, and it has the trace elements, all the trace vitamins and minerals that come from the plants they feed from. Now this actually tastes, it is like the crushed seeds. But when I was studying honey sensory analysis in Italy, in Bologna, so I've done two courses, and I'm waiting to be able to go back and do the exam, and then I'll be qualified. But I must stop now.
I'm the same with really lovely honey. I sit there with a spoon and just eat it.
Oh, it's good. They describe, each honey has a descriptor, and they describe this one as chimichi, which is the stinky bug. And I was the only, or there was only like 2 or 3 of us who were English speaking when they were doing this, and they're going, oh, it's chimichi. And everyone was saying, oh, chimichi, you know, that's what it, and I'm like, what the fuck is chimichi? And so they had to Google it, and it's a stinky bug, which I still don't know what it is. But that's what this smells like. So if you imagine something from I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, some kind of bug, and you crushed it, that's what it has. But now this was my point. Coriander, they did some trials in New Zealand, and they found that bees that were foraging on coriander had a better resistance to the disease Varroa, which is, Varroa is actually a little mite that eats the bees. It feeds off their cytolympha. Anyway, too early, and I haven't eaten my breakfast yet. So but anyway,
it feeds on something. They're a parasite by the sound of it.
Yeah, they are a parasite. And when you have parasites, obviously, well, there's this catch-22. This is the difference between allopathic and naturopathy. Naturopathy believes that if you are run down, if your immune system is low, you're more vulnerable to attack from pests and diseases. So with bees at the moment, strong hives don't get attacked by wasps, but the weak ones do. So so there is this argument, and when you have the parasite Varroa, it's quite often to find a disease called deformed wing virus, where the bees' wings don't form, and so the bees kick out. This is where you've got to be careful about learning too much from the bees, because
I know they kick the boys out, don't they, when they have young them?
I know. Oh yeah, this time of year all the boys are kicked out.
Poor
So
boys.
yeah, so they if they have deformed wing virus, well, that is a virus that was thought to be carried in by the varroa mite, but there's now different science that's saying actually no, it's quite separate. But it could be an indicator from a naturopathic perspective that the bees are just so run down that that's what's happened. Now, the other really good thing, I don't know how we're doing for time, but
we've got about 15 minutes, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Is the key thing is propolis. Now, have you heard of propolis?
Yes, I have heard of propolis. We went to Berwick upon Tweed a while back, and there's like a propolis. I mean, there's a whole bee situation, and I had childhood asthma, and I remember my mum. Like we went to this bee place, and someone was telling us about propolis and how actually it's really good for the respiratory system, and it's good for propolis is good at all.
So not that long ago.
And that's right. That's right. Well, not long ago at all. But yeah, but do tell us more, because I come from a place of knowing, and a lot of people that be watching won't. So if you tell us a little bit more about propolis, that'll be really cool.
Okay. Well, propolis is this sticky substance that the bees coat their hive with. So when you're a beekeeper and you try and open up the hive and you lift a frame out, you get this sort of cracking noise as you break a seal, which is propolis. And so beekeepers, conventional beekeepers, have been breeding bees to not produce propolis because it makes beekeeping difficult. Now, I started to think, well, why are they producing propolis? And I'll see if I can find, excuse me. Oh, there might be a big collapsing noise. Right, this is a bit of a bee frame. And can you see this sort of sticky stuff here?
Yes.
So that's propolis.
I see that.
Now, the bees, what they do is they go to trees and they take the resin from trees and they bring it back to the hive, chew it up with a bit of wax, bit of honey, and then they fill in any gaps so it stops any drafts in the hive. Now,
draft exclusion.
Sorry?
Draft exclusion. God, I love it.
Exactly. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, scientists in Minnesota have been researching bees, and they found that bees that were enabled and in the wild, they would coat their whole hive with propolis on the inside.
Right.
If you injected a really serious disease like European foul brood, which is a notifiable one, if your bees have that, you've got to burn everything. And,
my God.
You know, it's really
it's a bad time.
It is. It's a nasty disease. But actually, I've got an even better. I've got a better. Can you see the orange down there?
Oh, okay. So it looks kind of like sap. It looks a little bit like
sap. It does.
Yeah.
And it smells amazing when you open. Oh, it's lovely.
I wish we had smell-o-vision this morning. I'm very jealous that I can't wait to have a studio, invite people in. Things too.
Have everybody's mouths watering. But they found if they injected this really serious virus into the hive, which had propolis in, the bees didn't get sick. But the normal hive, they would. I mean, if you even have a tool or your bee suit, if you've gone to a hive which has got EFB, European foul brood, or American foul brood, and you go to another hive, you'll transfer it. It's that transferable, a bit like some of the viruses we hear about now. And but the bees with propolis inside their hive don't get affected. So the thing to think about, I went to an amazing natural beekeeping conference in Holland a few years ago, and there was some great inspiring talks, and there was a lot of woo there. But there was this scientist from Switzerland who was saying that we think of bees as individuals. So when you see a little bee crawling around the lawn and you try and save it with a bit of sugar or whatever, don't ever give bees honey unless it's their own honey. That's just a quick rule. We think of them as individuals, but a colony of bees has to have one queen, 49,000 odd worker bees, all female, and then about 100 to 200 male bees, the drones. And that is the whole. So none of those bees can survive on their own. Therefore, what is their skin? And it's the propolis. So the propolis skin, so just like our skin has antibacterial, antiviral properties, which is why you've got to be really careful with these chemicals that we're all washing our hands with, or some people are washing their hands with. Soap is much better because the antibacterial, you're wearing down your own skin. So we're going to have all kinds of problems from that in the future.
Like contact dermatitis and all sorts of things going to be going
because
on.
anything unnatural you put in your body's got to get rid of. You know, that's the whole process, is expelling unnatural things. So really think carefully about everything that we use. So, you know,
covered in tattoos.
Well, yeah. Yes, I don't have any tattoos. My sons do, though. I mean, they do everything I don't. But
I get it, but I understand.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, but I wonder, has anybody got any questions? I mean, I could talk all day, obviously.
There will be loads of questions. So Luby Lou's just asking, what is the name? What was the name of the company who sell the coriander honey again, please? The Birmingham-based.
Okay, it's Amelson's.
Amelson's,
but it's Nature Shop UK, and they're on Instagram. Oh God, it's so difficult here. You have to sort of move backwards and forwards.
Amelson's.
But they've got 35 varieties of honey from all around the world, and they're a really good company. The other one where you can get a discount from, where this year I did I launched a program where we're trying to plant 1 million trees in Madagascar.
All right, okay.
And this is, there we go. This is Elanga Nature Honey, which is a Madagascan company. Oh dear, sorry about this. Trying to get
it. No, you've got it. You've got it bang on there. I'm just trying to type in the names for everybody.
So this is Elanga Nature, and these get shipped from Belgium, but they're all Madagascan honeys. And every jar of honey you buy plants trees in Madagascar. But what I love is quite often with these tree planting things, and of course we need more trees, is that the beekeepers are guardians of the trees. So instead of just having acres of saplings that are then left to fend for themselves, because the beekeepers know that they need trees to feed their bees, because the trees have blossom. And I mean, this is eucalyptus, and the eucalyptus tree in Madagascar is endemic to Madagascar, so you wouldn't find it anywhere else in the world. And they have 12 different varieties of honey, including a coffee, which I don't think is quite available just yet, but amazing honeys. And I really recommend the eucalyptus. It's like butterscotch.
Oh, nice.
And then they have a Niuli, which has got the same, very, very similar properties to Manuka honey. But
you're like a honey sommelier. I love it.
Oh, I know. I love honey. And I can't believe how much I've learned from studying honey. I've got over 200 varieties. But if you put my name, Paula Carnell, in the shopping basket, you'll also get a discount with Elanga Nature. And they do the most beautiful gift boxes, wooden boxes or card boxes with a selection of honeys in. So if you want to treat somebody, they are beautiful.
Nice way to do it. Fantastic.
Oh, well done.
So what's coming up next for you then, Paula? Like, so you've got all of this, you've got your course running, and you've got a lovely group that have come to engage with that, and no doubt that's just going to grow as people are more informed about this. Just like today, I'm sure that the people that are watching, that are dipping out today, in and out today, will probably go on and do some further learning about this. I know I did when I first started learning about bees, bee behavior, and how we could draw analogies from that in terms of community, etc., etc. It became like a fascination for me, and I'm sure it'll be the same for many people. So I implore, like, everybody who's interested in this, do go and follow Paula. How do we hang out with you?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm on Instagram. That's probably my most active, and it's just Paula Carnell. And then I'm on Facebook. I have a website which is just paulacarnell.com. And there you can, I've got books. Now I've got 2 books, Artist to Bees, because I used to be an artist. Then I had 7 years wheelchair and bedbound. And that's how I then ended up being bees. And now I travel all around the world. So this is my Bees in Bhutan book. And so you can find me there. I've written the content for a new Beesantium, a bee museum that opens next year at the Newt in Somerset. And that is an incredible building all about bees. And so that will be open next year. And at the Newton Somerset, as soon as we're allowed again, I do bee safaris and workshops. So have a look at the Newton Somerset and
I will.
Good.
I will. I absolutely will. I'm going to come and bring the
special...
kids down to Somerset when we're allowed.
Oh yeah, and you must let me know, and I'll give you a tour. So we'll have Queen Bees on tour.
Now, I've really enjoyed this morning so much. Keep going. I don't want you to stop. Keep telling me things.
Okay, because I'm in my 50s, I love tea towels, and I'm trying to save the world. Tea towels. So I've got this tea towel, which is, oh dear, plants for bees. So if you don't want to keep bees, but you want to save them, this has 12 plants that will feed the bees throughout the year because they need food all year round. You will get this free if you go onto my website and order a copy of any of my books and put in Save the Bees.
Save the Bees.
Save the Bees on paulacarnell.com, and I will give you a free tea towel. So and then
bees code on Paula Carnell. Hang on, Carnell website. I'm trying to get all of this in, but please make sure that you go back into the comments and go and just share your links so that people can come and find you for free tea.
So, and I'm going to give you one tip which will change the world, the power of the world. We always think that governments should do this or do that. And there's only 300 governments in the world at the most. There's 7 billion of us. So we really have the power. So if you don't want chemicals in agriculture, just stop buying chemicals. Just stop buying anything chemicals. And I know there's always a cost impact, but every penny you spend, wherever you put your money, it has an effect. So we have the power with our pounds. Yeah. So just buy organic food. If you buy chemical-free food, particularly from your local farmer or even your supermarkets, if you demand it, then
supply and demand. People create the gut. Like we were talking about capitalism, right? Like earlier on, people put or governments put and councils put the weight behind where people are spending because that's where they make more tax. That's where they make more money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everyone caught that. So that's where they get the tax from. That's where they get the money. If everyone's putting their money there, that's where they're going to want to focus. If we put our money somewhere else, in a place where it's going to be more beneficial to the environment, more beneficial to us, more beneficial to our health, more beneficial to that of the health of the things that are living and cohabiting around us, then absolutely, it's what an incredible decision that you can. And there's small decisions that you can make day on day. That's not like, oh, I'm going to suddenly start lobbying or suddenly start campaigning. It's just the difference between where you're going to buy your product from and the other place where you could buy your product from and what's going to have a better impact. And if everything like the butterfly effect, if we all did it, it would be an incredible thing to do. Paula, we have run out of time. And I could speak to you all day. This has been one of my favorite shows since the beginning. It has been just so interesting to speak to you. Please do put your links into the comments, both in the hive. Are you in the IATQ? I feel like we need you in the IATQB hive as our resident bee expert. If you're not already in the IATQ
no, I think I am. I think I am. I'll double check it.
But make sure you put all your links on the comments. Paula Carnell, everybody, I'm going to pop you backstage while I round the show out. But what an incredible show! Honestly, I have had my science fill this morning. I've had my bee fill this morning. I've had my queen bee fill this morning. You guys are amazing. So we're going to be opening up applications for the show at Rise Up show after the 6th of October. So if you have an incredible story to tell, if you are an advocate, if you are an ally, if you are members of the LGBTQ community, if you are a person of color, we need more people to talk about the things. We need to find out about all the things. And I want to use this platform to share as much of that awesome stuff with you guys as possible. So do keep your eyes and your ears peeled for the reopening up of applications for to be a guest on the show at Rise Up Show. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. If you haven't already signed up for the for the Be Heard So You Want to Be a Speaker challenge. It's our free challenge starting on the 28th of September. Make sure that you do. Just pop challenge in the comments and we will sort you out with a link so you can get yourself signed up. It's completely free to take part. But if you are fearful of speaking online, just in situations like this, or if you need help putting together your content and all of that kind of stuff, I want to be able to help you. It is my mission to share as many of you with the world. And when I can't share you with the world, I want to prep you so you can do it yourself. Right, you guys, have an incredible day. We're going to kick off now here in Italy with Claire's VIP retreat experience, doing all things speakery. I love you guys. I will see you bright and breezy in the morning, 8 o'clock your time, 9 o'clock my time. Have an incredible day. Go and rip your top